I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comment. I did not receive any requests for public comment. So we will move on to number 4, approval, and it says November 5th infrastructure meeting. Actually, it's November 2nd, so that's going to be changed. Was when the meeting was, at least that's what the agenda says, and it was in the PEC. So, but the only change on that would be to, that I see, is to change the date to November 2nd. Is there any other corrections or comments?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Motion by Supervisor Robinson, second by Supervisor Dickinson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 5, policy issue discussion and potential committee determination. 5A is the 2024 Wisconsin DOT routine maintenance and traffic maintenance agreement. And Commissioner Griesbach is going to cover that. That's in your packet. There's like 17 pages.
Thank you. So yes, in your packet, you'll see 2 agreements, one for our routine maintenance agreement for $3,412,800. That, again, covers everything that we do with the state besides some of our signing, which is under the traffic maintenance agreement for $40,000. Again, just for a refresher, we are contracted by WISDOT to do all the maintenance on all the state highways. We're the only state in the union to run the state highways this way. It's a very efficient way. A lot of states are looking to try to figure out how to move this direction, but they have such an investment that it's hard for them to go ahead and do that. But we are running into some issues with the state routine maintenance agreement. The $3.4 million that we have received in the agreement for 2024 is the same as we received the last 3 years. Just like you at home, costs keep going up, and we have not seen an increase for 3 or 4 years. The state runs a level of service model that shows how much it needs to do everything they want to do on the system. We made an agreement between WISDOT, the counties, and the road builders probably about 9-10 years ago now on what maintenance looks like, what we will handle, what the contractors will handle, and that's all based on the state funding our routine maintenance at 90% of the level of service. So right now they ran a new model, and for us to do everything on the state system that the state would like to be done, the level of service is $5,514,200. So they're funding it instead of at 90% with the agreement. The MOU said they would fund everybody at 90%. We're at 61.89%. There's some counties as low as Rock County is as low as I believe in the 30%, 35% range. So when the DOT and we talk to our legislators and they say, "What do you want funded?" We only have so much money. GTA or RMA. It's an easy answer for all of us. We say GTA because that's going to help us on our county system. We are to the point now that we need to start speaking, and hopefully when you speak to your legislators, that we discuss the RMA also, because we can't stay status quo and to get everything done. All the counties are uniform in telling the state that we were not going to fund their system. Meaning I have 12 dedicated people that the state fund. I'm not going to start pulling in people off because my budget's over. For example, when I talk about budget being over, in the November report from our district as a whole was 10.9% over. Marathon County is sitting at, we are 14% over what we're going to be projected to be for the month. That's through September. Currently, through September, we've already invoiced the state $2,943,429, which leaves us only a balance of $256,078 left on our 2023 contract. Now, the state will pay those bills, but they're also looking at a reduction of work. They're starting to say, "What are you doing?" You know, they want us out there surveillance only. They don't want us out there doing any major projects because they're seeing these numbers already back in August, especially after this past winter. The winter we had, we came out of it very poorly in April. So they're already regulating what we're doing for projects on their state system. So without that proper funding out there, we are going to start seeing reduction of level of service on those state highways unless, you know, we have those conversations both at the Wisconsin County Highway Association and the committees when you talk to your legislators saying that something needs to be done to increase the funding on our RMAs. Again, we have no problem with the RMAs as is this year going into 2024. But if nothing happens in 2025, I believe as a whole, the Wisconsin County Highway Association is going to start having some conversations. There are some counties out there right now not wanting to sign the 2024 contracts. So we have to have those conversations. We have to have them soon.
Thank you. Any questions? Supervisor Robinson?
So Jim, what are our options? I think the public wants those roads maintained, and we routinely hear complaints. In particular, we were hearing them on 29 in the Edgar area, and so when they don't do that, do we divert those calls to the state?
That's been the best action I've gotten for maintenance. Now, you know, there's a different pot of money when you're looking at the Highway 5129. That's all reconstruction backbone money.
But this was before, you know, when it was really rough.
Yeah, those are routine maintenance, and that's the best action I've gotten when I've gotten the phone calls. I refer them right to the DOT and say, these are the people you need to talk to. And I also have them talk to the legislators. I have them call Senator Tomczyk. He chairs the Transportation Committee. So especially in this area, we have we've been fortunate back to back having two senators chair that committee. So put them in contact with Senator Tomczyk's office and let them know in Madison. That's where it's got to start.
Go ahead.
So are we keeping a cumulative total of what their lack of funding means to the taxpayers of the county? So if we're at a pledge of 90% and we're at 61.89, what does that translate to in terms of tax? That it has to be made up by someone, and that's generally the taxpayer. Are we tracking that by year so that we've got some numbers?
We have everything tracked of how much we've been over the last 4 years. We've been over every year, so we do have those numbers. How much we're over, as far as what they're not seeing done, that isn't probably put together in a document form. But you know, we know what needs to be done internally.
Mr. Chair, could I ask that this item be placed on an agenda for a future meeting, that we bring in those numbers and we work on a resolution to share with DOT and our state legislators relative to underfunding of state highways?
Yeah, I think that's a excellent way to deal with it. If we have to deal with the state and Senator Tomczyk, but if we don't have those conversations here, and like Supervisor Robinson said, the citizens don't realize, you know, who controls that.
Correct.
Go ahead, Supervisor Farber.
Jim, if we're at 61%, how can we afford to sign that contract? And if counties don't sign their contracts, what happens then?
We have in the contract, we have a 90-day out. There's two things in a contract. One is a 90-day out that we can give each other notice. The other thing is we have filled it out before. There is a maintenance request form. If we see something out there that we know is a liability, let's say there's a 5-inch drop off on the other road where the shoulder is, we'll fill out the request maintenance. We send it to the DOT. They have 1 week to answer. What it does is release us from any liability and puts it in their hands. So that's one of the tools that we've been using to relieve us of any liability in those.
Still, if we don't sign the contract, what happens? If we're not contracted to do any of that work, how does it get done and who does it?
My predecessor made the threat at one time that we weren't going to sign the contract, and the DOT went through an exercise. This is 20 years ago, so some things are a little foggy, but the DOT did go through an exercise trying to contact local firms of who wanted to plow, and the bigger firms. They don't want to have 10 different firms all plowing the state roads, and they got 0 responses at that point. So, we do kind of have a hammer on them a little bit because they know if we don't do it, there's really nobody out there to do the projects for them. And again, they've always paid the bill. We're 14% over right now, and we still get paid.
Has there ever been a county that you said didn't sign the contract, and how did they resolve that? Or
There has not been a county, to my knowledge, has never not signed a contract.
okay. Any other comments, questions? Supervisor Gissman.
Well, I just want to reaffirm what Mr. Robinson with regard to, I think we should talk about this invite maybe even our state senator in. I think we have to make sure that he's clear, that he knows specifically what we're up against, and he represents us. He deals with the budget. He deals with transportation. He should be fully informed about what his county is thinking with regard to aids to help maintain our highways.
I agree, and I think that might be something to start with the beginning of next year. Wasn't Senator Petrusky, wasn't he on transportation?
Yeah, Senator Petrusky also chaired Transportation Committee.
So we shouldn't, that shouldn't be a big of an issue here with us, with our local senator being the chair of transportation. But I think that's a great idea to bring him in and see if he can come in and into one of our meetings so we can make him aware of what we're up against.
Sure. And I can work with the WSDOT to maybe say, it's easy enough for them to give me the numbers for the last 3 years where everybody finished. I'm assuming that they'd be willing to give me our whole district, all 18 counties where they've been.
Supervisor Seibert?
Jim, what is the disparity between counties getting 60%, 70%, 90%? Why do some counties get a higher percent?
It's just how that's just how it works out. If you look at my spreadsheet, there's the majority of them are all between 60. This whole side here, the highest is 68 and the lowest is 61, so they're pretty close. Where you get the disparity is when there's usually a lap in there. If a county gets a whole bunch of new highways, a new system is built, it takes them a while to get caught up on that. Rock County had a ton of new highways put in down there, new lanes, because we were paid off by the lane mile. So when the county gets a bunch of new ramps and highways, they'll probably be back a few years.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Supervisor Robinson?
I would move to authorize the execution of the agreements, however, communicating to DOT our concerns relative to the inadequate level of funding as part of that, and then request that we bring this in at the next meeting.
It might be tough getting those numbers put together at the end of the year, so it might be a February meeting.
At a future meeting.
Okay, February, sounds good. Is there any other?
You need a second?
Yes.
Okay, I'll
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? And this would be for February, Supervisor Dickinson?
What's the deadline for signing this agreement? Does it have to be done now?
Yes. I got it sent to me, they wanted a signature the day after our November meeting. The timing was this off, so.
I guess I just have a concern that we would sign something that we are not fully in agreement with, that we have great concerns of, and I hear we got the 90 days, but, that's, you're going to need to bring back significant information in the next 90 days for us to decide if we want to continue with it, is the way I would look at it, because I'm not comfortable putting my name on this right now.
We are having a meeting, December 20th with the Secretary's office, and this is the top thing on her agenda with the WCHA.
Thank you. Supervisor Dickinson?
The percentages, was it 69%? Is that what, or 61?
60, let me see here. 61.89,
It's supposed to be 90?
correct.
Okay.
Again,
So-
that is for the level of service, so that is if we wanted to do everything. They're funding us at 100% of the work that we do. It's just they're looking at, if they want to do everything that they would like to do, there's only enough money to do 61.89. But they are funding us for the work we do at 100%.
But if they decided they wanted to do everything, we're not funded at 100%.
Correct.
Okay. And we don't determine if they were going to decide to do everything.
No, they gave us the work list.
So I would reach out to the administrator and finance and say, and I guess HR finance to say, where is the other 30%, 29% going to come from? I mean, how do we determine where the other 29% is going to come from if we're on the hook? Is that, to come up with a plan for that? Because the idea that we would just, quote unquote, I think it was mentioned before about taxes, putting it on taxpayers' backs, so to speak. I don't like that, because I could come up with a lot of other ideas as to where to get that money from.
If I may, I think there might be a small understanding there. So we don't do any work that the state doesn't pay for us. So we don't need to come up with any funding at the county level. The shortfall becomes in between the work that the state gives us right now and their level of service model that they would love to have. And that's everything that they have in their system says, we need to do this. That's at 5.1 million. They're giving us 3.1. If we go over, they fund us at 100%. It's just that there's no county money being put into this at this point, nor never will be any county put money in for that shortfall. That's going to be something that WISDOT needs to come up with.
Thank you. Supervisor Robinson?
So we were mischaracterizing this. So the 61.89 reflects 61.89% of the projects that should be done to, for instance, maintain a PACER rating of 7, just as a goal.
Yes.
But we're not, the goal is to do 90% of those, but they're only funding at 61.89. But we are receiving compensation at the 90% or at 100% of our costs within that 61.89.
Correct. We receive 100% of our costs. There's no county dollars put in any of this. Their level of service model is a model that they derive by saying, if our system, if you want to use a PACER rating, WISDOT does not use a PACER rating on their own system. If you want to have a PACER rating of 10, so if you want to kind of go with you want your system at the perfect level, it's going to cost $5.1 million. We're going to give you $3.4 million, and we're happy having it at 61.89% of our perfect system.
Supervisor Seibert?
Jim, do we have a list of projects that won't be funded? I mean, which projects, I think that's important because if there's projects out there that are a danger to anybody, that,
Again, you got to remember, there's a difference between construction dollars and maintenance dollars. These are maintenance dollars. This $3.4 million is for going out and plowing the roads, winter maintenance, number one, okay? And then you have filling potholes, doing lane wedging, ditching, guardrail repairs, items like that. Guardrail repairs actually is in a different pot of money. They pay 100% of damage claims. But it's those type of projects. So if you're saying, for example, something that you and I can relate to, and Chris, the Highway 153 project, that has nothing to do with these dollars. That's all construction. This is just routine maintenance for us to go out and shoulder the roads, patch the roads, lane wedge the roads, mow ditches. That's the money we're talking here.
but I mean, I guess maybe you don't, which projects, like if that 153 would have been one of those projects, that would have been something that I would have been willing not to sign a contract if they're not going to fix 153 because the condition that was in and the danger that road was to anybody traveling it.
Two different project, two different pots of money. The 153 project we have, the RMA has absolutely nothing to do with that.
Well, I mean, from doing everything that the state would like done, we're 2 million short. Where does that 2 million go? Well, I mean, what projects does the state want us? Would the state want us, if we had the extra 2 million, what project would the state want us to do?
All right, I'll give a quick example. So our guys go out and they see 2 miles of Highway 29 where the shoulder is 3 inches low. We would go in at 90%. If they would fund that at 90%, we'd call up our state legman and say, we would like to go out there and shoulder this. Trucks, graders, compactors, water truck, all that resources go into it. They pay 100% for that. If we were funded at 90%, we'd do that. We're not funded. We're down at 60%. So they're saying, let that go. One guy, go out in your truck and go patch your potholes and look for those major hazards on the road. So we're skipping those maintenance things that we see that are not 100% necessary, but they're very desirable to do. So we're not doing those desirable maintenance things when we're funded at 60%. We're just sending out our 2 patrolmen. They're going out, they're driving roads, they're looking for the major potholes, the major hazards that are out there, but we're not hitting those middle ground maintenance activities.
So, but still, it just still doesn't answer. Where would that 2 million go? There's got to be a list. How did they get to 5.4 million if they don't have a list of everything that should be done?
They do have a list. I guess I could ask for a list. Most of it's shoulders. A lot of it's lane wedging. It's not like it's a set project of, I shouldn't say that. There are some set projects. There's a lot of lane wedging we would like to do, and they told us not to go do that lane wedging. A few years back, we went to lane wedge on Highway 97 north of Country Air. They told us not to go do that project. So it's small projects like that they have. Do I have a list? I believe the DOT has some type of list that our person works with the legman all the time, and we have a list of projects. I could get those projects for you if you need it, Tom.
Okay, how do we know which projects should be done and which projects don't need to be done, I guess is where I'm coming from. I mean, if I go back to 153, if that was one of those projects and the condition that road was in, not to be fixed year after year after year, if we have any of those on the list.
Yeah, again, the routine maintenance is, they move, a lot of them are projections because, I'll use Kevin's example, Highway 29. They know we need to go shoulder that every so many years because it just, dust goes away, the truck blows it away. They know that that's coming. So some of those are projections of we're going to go here. Again, there's no major road construction projects that are part of this. They're all shouldering, patching, snow plowing, You know, a good part of that, a great part of that shortfall was this past winter maintenance. They did not have enough money in the winter maintenance project. That's routine maintenance. We were probably, after April, we were probably 30% down right there just for snow plowing. So that's a big chunk of that shortfall is that they don't even have enough in there for snow plowing, which we're doing.
And if I can add one thing before, sorry, Supervisor Dickinson. The state, I just want to make very clear, the state does pay. If we go over, they've never not paid. It's really, this is an exercise where, quite honestly, their estimates are bad, right? They want a $300,000 house that they say, hey, we're willing to give you $200,000 to build it. We're not going to build a $300,000 house. We're going to do the $200,000 house. It's a rough analogy, but if we have to go out because there's snow storms perennially through all of 2024, and Jerry's very happy because he gets to ski a lot, the state will pay us for that plowing shortfall in their projections. But I completely agree, there's a real need to sit down with the state and say, let's be honest about what our desire is with respect to roadway maintenance, routine roadway maintenance on the state system, and let's have the routine maintenance agreement reflect that reality as opposed to what it reflects now, which is not real. So again, I think it's important to say that there's not a $2 million gap where you're going to see Jim and I come before the board and say, hey, we have a $2 million gap. This is our way to fill it. I would classify that as highly, highly, highly unlikely because that's never happened before, and the contract itself has language that requires the state to reimburse and pay for the services provided, which is based on actual labor, including fringe benefit costs, machinery allowances, so all the things that Jim and his team specifically categorize and keep track of.
I got one more for you. You know, just going back to the snow plowing, Tom, just looking back at my spreadsheet. After April, so there's really not too much patching and all those other projects, just the snow plowing. After April, our region had already spent 52.7% of the state budget for our region after April last year. So over half our budget was gone coming out of winter last year. So that's the majority where the shortfall is.
Thank you. Supervisor Gissel and then Supervisor Dickinson. Do you have, oh, okay, Supervisor Dickinson.
So then I'll just help me with clarifying this. And the agreement includes, is there anything not in the agreement that potentially the state, when we talk about the 5 million, that additional 2 million, is it not included in this? Or two, is it simply that the numbers in the agreement are less than what we would have expected? Is the second one?
Correct. I believe that if I understand your question, the numbers that are in the agreement are less than what we would need. Again, a big part of that is the winter maintenance.
Thank you. Supervisor Straub and Supervisor Robinson. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I guess, excuse me. So in other words, using Kevin's analogy, if a routine maintenance repair is needed on the shoulder and it should have been 3 vehicles, 5 men there. Instead, we're sending 1 vehicle, 2 men there. We're doing patchwork, really, because the money's not there to do a complete whole
Correct.
Maintenance repair.
Correct.
So does that work? Is that a approach? That doesn't seem correct to me. It seems like we should have a whole repair instead of kind of a patch job repair.
We agree 100% on that. And that's one of the things we want to talk about when we sit down with our legislators and our legmen. We've already been told on one project, and we had a very long conversation, and they realized their errors in their thinking. We went out one time, we were going to shoulder on 153. We said the whole stretch between Stratford and Mosinee was bad. They came back and said, tell you what, we realize it's bad, but why don't you do it from Seibert Road to Dickinson Road, then skip a half a mile, then go over here and do it.
No. It's the old saying, if you're going to take the time to do something, why are you going to take the time to do it wrong when you could have done it right?
Correct.
So it's just, so, but I do agree, if we're getting full reimbursement, there is no loss to the taxpayer. So that's a good thing, so in my view.
Zero.
Zero. So it's just a matter of what level of maintenance we're being able to perform. We're doing patchwork repair or maintenance, routine maintenance, as opposed to whole 100% maintenance that would have been, that should be a normal, wouldn't it?
Correct. And my conversation's already been with the secretary is, you pay the bills anyhow, which we appreciate. So why don't you just give us more money because you know you're going to pay us anyhow. So give us the right amount of money and we'll be there.
Thank you. Supervisor Robinson? Okay. Supervisor Seibert?
Probably my last question, Jimmy. That's how many miles of county road and how many miles of state highway?
We have 614 miles, centerline miles of county roads. We have 800, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but I believe it's 880 lane miles of state roads. So we base our county roads off of centerline miles. The state bases is off of lane miles just because 51 is 3 lanes out here. 614 lane miles. I'll just add more because we have remote and we have a couple 4 lanes, Weston. So I don't have the exact number of lane miles. We have probably 650-ish.
So like 60% compared to 40% would be a good estimate? Is the state contributing 40% of our budget?
For the GTA? Yes. Yeah.
We're doing 40% state miles. 40% of our budget should come from the state, correct?
So this is how I think about it, and it's what Jim said before. The state routine maintenance agreement budget, the state pays 100% of the work we do for routine maintenance on the state system. The county system is different, and your question about lane miles, yeah, if you looked at the Green Book, I believe we're at 1,128 lane miles to put those things, and it's probably not exactly right to your point, Jim, but 1,128 compared to 800. So if you look at lane miles, our county system is larger than our state system. But there's different funding buckets. Like Jim alluded to with GTA, that can be utilized, and that is utilized on the county system. So with this routine maintenance agreement, it is funding all of the work the state ultimately says we want done. To Jim's point, we can walk in and say, you know what, this area of roadway has these potholes, it needs lane wedging, and we need some work on the shoulders. But at the end of the day, it's the state's system that they dictate the level of service. They dictate what maintenance they want done. They pay 100% of it. I mean, our staff do it. I mean, at the end of the day, if we don't sign this agreement, Jim and I are going to have a conversation shortly thereafter about how many people do we no longer need to do routine maintenance, because we spend a lot of time on the state side for routine maintenance. So they pay 100%. This is really, in my mind, an issue like, I forget, I think it was Supervisor Straub that referenced, let's just be honest in what the projections are. Let's be honest about what level of service you want and then pay for it, and we'll keep track. I mean, if we spend less money, what happens, Jim? Say that the estimate under our agreement is,
If we spend less money, that money comes back in a DMA, a discretionary maintenance agreement. So let's say there's $3 million left in our region, and they do it as a region, not as a county. They do it as a region, and they'll say, all right, we got $3 million left in our 18-county region. Why don't Vilas County, you go do this, Marathon County, you do that. So any money that's left comes back to the counties in a form of a DMA.
Okay. Supervisor Seibert?
I guess I lied, Jim. So I guess what I get out of this is that we're spending more money on county miles than the state is spending on state miles. Then do we have that number? Do we have a number? How much of the budget comes from state money and how much of the budget comes from county money?
Beginning in with our new workday, and we're working, excuse me. One of his guys calling me. With all of our projects that we have going, and with workday, beginning in May, we are going to start giving you guys quarterly reports of our projects. Okay, so our I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we just signed our GTA was $3.2 million. So our GTA, the general transportation aid that we get, and our RMA are pretty close, within a couple $100,000. Okay, but then we also get money from the state for, you know, the bridges we're doing. Some of them are funded at 80%, some are funded at 20%. So it really depends on the year. But as far as just the money that they give us for general maintenance, or that's where our GTA goes, is in their general maintenance, is relatively close to what we get for our RMA, for our state maintenance. Again, there's no crossover in those buckets, though.
Thank you, Supervisor Robinson.
So we're really in an apples to oranges comparison too between the state cost and our cost, because in our cost we have the routine maintenance and we've got our reconstruction and construction dollars. Those dollars are funded from a different source on the state highways. And I think we started this out wrong when I heard that 61.89. I think the understanding was that we were funding the balance, and it's not. It's like owning a house and saying that you need to paint the entire house. It needs it from a preventative maintenance, but you only do 61% of the rooms, and you get paid for all of that, but you're deferring 32% of the work to some point in time. And at some point in time, from the state's perspective, if you don't do that routine maintenance, it becomes a reconstruction. And the quality of the road is compromised. So I think my interpretation was wrong to begin, but we're getting 100% of what we should, but we're only doing 61% of what it would be prudent to do from a preventative maintenance perspective.
Correct.
Thank you. Supervisor Straub and Supervisor
Yeah,
Seibert.
in this routine maintenance agreement with the state, and now that we know that the two are different, are we allowed as the county to hire outside, recruit people to help us with the projects that are dedicated to the state? In other words, can we increase our workforce on a temporary basis to achieve the level of?
For a level of service, what we do is in the summer we can, we'll hire some summer help. We've already hired contractors when we have a project that something that equipment we don't have, or something like that. We hire trucks. A lot of times we'll hire trucks to come in and help us truck. So we do hire some of the private sector if needed.
They don't apply any discretion on how we go about getting our routine maintenance accomplished?
No, they do not.
So we
we rent a lot of equipment, and we'll just go rent a piece of equipment to get the job done.
So that's not an issue.
It is not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one more time. Go ahead, Supervisor.
One more
Seibert.
time, maybe this is for Lance. Let's go back to 2022. We know exactly how much the county spent for any kind of road maintenance, correct? I mean, if they spent, I don't know, millions, but we know that number, and we know the number that the state, I'd like to know the number that the state contributed to that number,
For the county system, state system, or both?
or both.
Sure. I
So
think
if we
can.
spent $30 million and the state contributed 10 million, that'd be 66% to 33%. But I'd like to know what those numbers are.
I can tell you that what the county has put in on state projects is $0. We put $0 on the county state. Excuse me. We put zero county dollars on the state system. We've never put a penny toward the state system.
That originally comes out of your pocket, correct? I mean, you paid for it originally, but then you get reimbursed. I mean, you've got a total of what the county has spent for all projects. State,
Tom, use your mic.
you've got a total for what the county has spent for every project. And then the state reimburses you. I'd like to see what the county spent total and how much was reimbursed by the state. So if the county
I
spent,
can get you numbers, but maybe we might have to talk offline because I'm a little confused exactly what you're asking for. Because anything that we do on the state, every month we send them a bill and say, I bought 5 steaks
Right.
from the Buccaneer, 3 orders of fries, and a cold beer.
understand that, but it still was your money. You initially put out the outlay.
Yeah.
So whatever that total outlay was of what came out of your pocket, and then what the state puts back in your pocket.
We
On the state system, it's an equal amount. It's always an equal amount on the state system. Whatever we put out, take out of our pocket, the state pays us that month.
Right,
We
I
send them a-
understand that,
we
but
send-
what is that number? Let's take 2022. What is that number?
On the state system, it was right around 3.4 million. Our, like I said, our RMA is 3.2. I think we were like 6% over last year, so
So they paid 6% more.
correct, 3 points. I'll just throw a number on their ballpark number. For a routine maintenance agreement,
Right.
we spent 3.3 million. The state gave us 3.3 million.
Okay. So then how much did the county spend on their own projects?
On our own system,
We can run that from the audit. Like Jim said, we met, there was a conversation at HR Finance, and it's actually at the end of the agenda about getting reserve balances and when can we, with our new system, start to do something that I know has been a focus for HR Finance, but the entire board since I started in county administration 6-7 years ago. Those frequent updates as to budget to actual. Our plan is to have that for we will have year-end balances and reserve information. We're thinking in March, but we can start to give quarterly updates in May to not only this committee, but all the committees. And we can certainly do with the audit, go back and tell you what was spent in total for 2022. I can see if I can pull that later today.
for a round ballpark number again, Tom, the GTA that they give us, originally, we've had this conversation quite a few times. Originally, the GTA was intended to give us, reimburse the counties 30% of our costs. It's down to 19.2% of our costs right now on the county system. State system, 100%. We've yet to spend a dollar on the state system that we haven't been reimbursed.
Thank you.
Is that the last question?
Yes. Okay. Now, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Are we still going to move that forward, or is it okay. What is the motion? I did not write it down.
The motion was to authorize the execution of the routine maintenance and traffic maintenance agreements, communicating our concerns over the adequacy of the funding, and to have a discussion at a future meeting.
Okay. That agreeable to the second?
Yeah, that's.
Okay, okay. All right, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving on to number 6, operational functions required by statute, ordinance, resolution, or policy. We have none. Number 7, education presentation and committee discussion. 7A is the 2023 PACER rating update from Mr. Lang, and that is on page 46. The update on the Highway Safety Commission meeting is ahead of that, but the PACER rating is on. I don't know if you can bring that up. Okay. Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, just give a quick background. One of our goals for the Infrastructure Committee and Highway Department is to maintain an average pacer rating on our network of 7. We've been hovering around that 7 mark pretty consistently with the investment that we put into our highways. Every 2 years, we are required by the state to go out and do these pacer ratings. What it involves is Jim, myself, and oftentimes Dave Mack, the county planner, will go and visually inspect the roads, rate them based off of what the pacer manual says. It's largely related to pavement cracking and then edge rutting. And then when you get down into the 3s and the 2s, those are roads that you're not going to drive 55 miles an hour down there. There's going to be holes in them. It'll be like some of the very, very rough, low-volume streets that you might encounter. But our highway system, if we were running in 3s and 2s, it would be extremely problematic and hazardous, basically, to drive down. So 4 is usually our worst roads. Those are the roads that we usually look at having in our paving program over the next few years. 10s are going to be brand-new roads, and then 9s and 8s are new overlays and really good condition roads. This year, we are at a 7.05 for an average, which meets our target of being at 7. We do have a lot more variety of our roads out there for improvements. We used to do a lot of pulverize and overlay just to build some more structure. A lot of our county highways now have been pulverized a time or two, so they're getting to have a better structure to them, and we start to see fatigue cracking and top of road pavement failures. And we fix those with mill and overlays instead of those pulverized projects. So some of those roads, they'll be a 10 1 year, but they'll drop down to the 6s a lot faster. But then they'll hover at that 6 because we have 5 and 6 inches of asphalt on them because we're doing overlays and getting them built up a little bit differently. So I do kind of see our numbers change a little bit for how they ebb and flow, but overall the system meets our goal and pretty happy with where it's at. The key with it is to continue, if we want to keep where we're at, is to keep up with the cost of these improvements and keep that continuous investment in our paving program. Any questions on it?
Supervisor Traub.
Thank you. For the pacer rating, for the inspection of the quality of the road, does that include inspection of the blacktop or surface on top of a bridge and culvert?
It's more of a macro look at it. We look at like 2 and 3 mile segments. So if there's isolated locations like a bridge or a culvert or a bridge approach, it doesn't really factor. It factors in, but it's not. We don't rate like 100 to 200 foot segments. We rate like a segment of highway N from J to Q, what the overall kind of average network is for that.
And in continuation, do we see that the surface, blacktop surface over a bridge or culvert deteriorates faster than on a road base?
Yes, they typically do because they're just different. They behave differently. So as the frost goes down, you have 5 feet of soil that's freezing and moving as Mother Nature does, versus over a culvert you have 2 feet of soil and then air, which doesn't move and doesn't behave the same.
So in theory, the pacer rating on a bridge or culvert could be a 4, while when you get to each one side or the other, it jumps back up to 7 or 8, correct?
It could be, yes.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Is there any other questions or comments? Supervisor Dickinson.
Yeah, I appreciate the information and the graph. It's kind of interesting that the graph is flat, the lines are flat, right? So for 2023, we have a flatter line as opposed to some of the other more curved lines, right? So we have, in the middle, we have less that are kind of average. We have a kind of an uptick in roads that are better in that 9-10 range. And then we do have a little bit of an uptick, or a little bit, 3-4. That range is a little bit higher. So I don't know. Just the comment I was making that we've kind of, the way you would analyze that is that we're averaging out our roads. All of our roads are tending to be maintained at a kind of a little more similar rate, where before they were arced more towards 6 and 7. But that's just the analysis, the analytical person in me. So thanks for that.
Thank you. No, he doesn't have any questions. Okay. No question.
Yeah, I
Okay.
will also hit on, like this year, we had the Highway K project, which was a federally funded, very large project. Coming up in '24, we have, I think we're over 10 miles of those federally funded projects they'll help boost up our network. Hopefully they'll keep maintaining some of those programs so we can keep having those investments coming where we're getting 80% of those roads funded versus having to fund them more wholly on the county side. But we do have quite a bit of federally funded roads coming up right now that'll help hold that 7 up high.
Thank you, and thanks for that information. Is there any other questions or observations? Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Moving on to 7B, update from the 11/1 of 2023, Marathon County Highway Safety Commission meeting. And Mr. Griesbach?
You received the minutes in your packet and along with the presentation. Wish I put on, there was one correction in the minutes that talks about the Highway K is open, but there have been numerous crashes on the curves that need to be corrected. That's Highway K and was Highway KK, so the minutes need to be corrected. If you see that, there's no significant increase crashes on Highway K. These are on KK through the curves down in that area, so those minutes have not been approved and need to be corrected. But also in the packet, we talked about we go through all the fatalities and serious accidents for the quarter. So for the third quarter, there was 2 fatalities in Marathon County. One on Highway B in the location of 4 Mile Road, and another one on Highway W at Alamo Road. And there's also another serious crash with a semi and a buggy up in the Athens area. Year to date, there's been 8 fatalities in Marathon County. Our 5-year average for the year is 12. In 2024, we have 14. So we are trending on the positive side for that. So that's a good thing. Year to date, statewide, the traffic deaths and fatalities have decreased, but we did see a great number increase in the motorcycle accidents. So I don't know if that has to do with a dry summer and a lot of people are on the bikes more this summer or what, but in 2022 we had 74, and in 23 we had 94. So we had 94 drivers and 4 passengers, so we had a total of 98 motorcycle deaths in Marathon County. One thing that's interesting that the state is doing, and you see commercials on TV for one of the insurance companies, I'm not sure which one it is, where they can kind of track how you're driving and, you get rewarded. Well, they're working right now with a lot of young drivers that play a lot of video games and like to challenge themselves and compete online. So the state is pushing a new program out there where they'll track your driving and give you a rate score so you can have competitions with others. So they're pushing that through the high school system now to try tracking kids to see how they're doing with their driving. So it's a new program out there that's just being launched, and they're seeing good things already with some of the schools, how the tracking is. But otherwise, those are the highlights from the November 1st Highway Safety Commission meeting.
Thank you. Supervisor Gissman?
Jim, do you track bicycle accidents? You said motorcycle. What about bicycles, or sort of a sense of where, if you do, and if there's the trend with regard to where they are within Marathon County?
Yeah, we can bring them up on community maps. We can track them. I don't have that number right in front of me. Looks like Kevin may be bringing up. Statewide, though, the pedestrians have gone down from 490 to 454 in 2023. 6 of those were bicyclists, but that's a statewide number for bicycles in the state. So, Kevin bringing up bicycles in Marathon County and community maps. One other thing that we did discuss as part of that, also is, there's two bills out right now in Madison. One of them I was just on Tuesday to testify to make a half hour of driver's ed in part of the curriculum for the driver's ed program to drive. Well, excuse me, part of the curriculum to have a half hour of construction zone, what you do in work zones, part of the driver's ed class. And there's also a new Senate Bill 614 that's just been introduced by Senator Tomczak's office to allow us to put cameras in our work zones. I'm sure Jerry's going to like to hear that, because if we put cameras in a work zone, he's going to want to. But so the help right now, if somebody goes through and they blow past a stop slow paddle, we have the authority, and I can call up the sheriff and say, hey, we got this person, here's the license plate, you blew through the work zone. The camera, what it would do is provide proof that that somebody actually did do that. So that's being introduced right now. Again, it's Senate Bill 614, which we are in favor of. Some counties are using this GoPros on the individuals out the flaggers. Some counties are putting it on the dash and just parking their vehicle off to the side, so it's so it captures the flagger. I've heard he had a lot of video of garages at night with the camera still on.
All right. So I guess, Jim, do you know, are they going back to mandatory road tests for them? Because 2020, there was no road tests.
Yeah, I believe they brought that. You have to have it. You have to have it a road test again.
You do, okay, because I know the uptick in accidents I could see without teaching driver's ed for 6 years. There were kids or students that I had that should not. I mean, the only driving they got was the 6 hours with the driver's ed, and I would tell them, don't go try to take your road test. You're not going to pass. But now, when they didn't require that, they could automatically go get their driver's license.
Yeah, and the other thing I've noticed with since COVID is I used to go to 5 or 6 high schools to talk to the drivers at courses about construction zones. There's not many school-run programs left anymore. They're mainly private.
Yep, I think Mosinee was the only school district that taught the classroom in school. I don't know if they still do that, but
No, I when I used to do driver's ed pre-COVID, I went to Spencer, Stratford, Edgar, Marathon.
okay,
They all did, and they've all since dropped them since COVID.
yeah. So, okay, any other updates or
We
questions?
do have the bicyclist numbers.
Yeah. For 2023, there were 25 bike-related crashes that were reported through community maps. From just glancing at it real quick, there was one on our system on Highway J, south of 29. Everything else was on local streets.
Thank you. And I've noticed the increase here, the uptick in these bicycle paths that they've been working on. They're finishing up some that go through Rothschilds and into Rib Mountain. So I think bicycle usage is going to be increased, with these new paths that they're putting down, which are very nice, and like I said, but I think with more, and then you're seeing more of these electric bikes and even electric skateboards, that they're on. So, any other comments, questions?
I just have.
Go ahead. Supervisor.
Is there, on the motorcycle desk, does it break it down by age? I've noticed a lot more young 16, 17, 18-year-olds on motorcycles.
This report did not. I'm sure you can bring up the numbers on community reports.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to 7C, the 2024 Winter Road School, January 22nd through the 24th. You have information in your packet. Jim, if you want to.
Yeah, again, you have the information. This is another thing that I received last November on the day of our highway committee meeting, so I've been a little bit earlier. I'd had it on the November packet, but I do, myself or Kim needs to get you registered here in the next week. So if you are interested in coming, please let myself or Craig know if you're coming. I know Craig mentioned that he would like to go at this point. But again, the dates are January 22nd, 23rd, 24th.
Which I think would be helpful for committee members if they can get to that with all the questions we have about the road maintenance, and there'd be people there that you could have an opportunity to talk to.
But again, I will need to know by next week if you plan on attending.
Okay. Supervisor Straub?
Is there a limit on how many of us can attend that meeting?
Is there what?
Is there a limit on how many of us can attend that meeting?
Yes, there is per committee, and I believe it's 1 or 2. I'm not sure. I know the chairs can go, but I think there is a limit. I don't know, and it depends on how many other people from committees go. But if somebody's interested, I can check with Kurt to see if there's an opportunity if 2 or 3 people want to go, from the committee.
If it's proper, I would express my interest in attending right now.
Okay. Anyone else, or? Okay. All right, well, like I said, we need to know by next week, but if 2 people want to go, I don't have to go, like I said, but I will go. I would prefer to go, but if 2 people from the committee wanted to go, I would not go.
So at this point, I'll probably get you 2 registered. Know their interest. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to 7D, CCIT projects, and Jerry Klein's here to let us know about that.
Good morning. The project, there's a project update in your packet. I'll just kind of highlight some of the stuff that we're working on right now. Property taxes, we started working on them about 2 weeks ago. I just got an update this morning of the 64 townships. We have finished, 30 of them are ready either at the printers or printed. And I think about a dozen of those are getting picked up or shipped out today. So property taxes are moving along at an okay rate. We had to redo a few of them because somebody missed putting in the new calculation for I think it's called MCL. It's managed forest cropland. The state had a calculation to change on it, and so there was some stuff that had to be redone earlier this week. It's approaching year end, so our new Workday financial system. The focus on that right now is all of their year end procedures at county finance. And we are putting together the work plan for 2024 for changes in Workday. It's going to mainly focus on our cashiering system called Teller. I think I mentioned this last time, but we pretty much wrapped up and closed out the project related to building the new Lakeview Conference Suite. So if you haven't been down there yet, I know it's starting to get used pretty regularly. And that's turned out, that looks like it finished great. I don't know if any of you have been there yet. Has anybody had a meeting there yet? An opportunity, perhaps. Yes,
We're actually I spoke with Chair Gibbs. We're planning on making an announcement to see perhaps if after the December meeting, we'd like to have a tour here of the courthouse of some IT projects. The courtrooms are all.
Yep, that was my next one.
Oh, there you go. Sorry to steal your thunder, Jerry. Those are done. And then also the project on Lakeview.
Yeah, the conference suite is pretty cool. It's got a lot of some pretty modern technology, so it's worth the tour. Thank you, Lance. Lead into my next one. We finished last week doing redoing all of the courtroom video systems. The last one that needed to be done was Judge Vakas's courtroom 2. That got done Friday. They actually had a couple of things to take care of this week. That finishes that project. So all 6 courtrooms have new video systems in them, new TVs, new cameras. The microphones have all been redone. Feedback I've gotten from the DA's office and the judges and the staff there that is things are working really well. Lance, I'd ask, I know you talk to the judges a little more often than I do.
Yeah, it's actually it's the 6 courtrooms, and then we have 2 hearing rooms.
True, right.
That are used by mostly court commissioners, but they require the same sort of video access. I haven't heard anything that it's not working well, other than the couple bugs that we have to work through. But again, the goal is to, after the county board meeting, we'll work with Mike to get something on the agenda to provide an opportunity to walk through and kind of see that technology, and hopefully we can get a judge to stick around that night and talk a little bit about it during the tour.
Yeah, what was happening in the past was the judges, when COVID hit and we started doing at least some of the hearing types remotely, they were typically using their laptops, the camera on their laptop, or a little USB camera on the top. Now they have 2 cameras, one facing the front of the courtroom, one facing out from the judges, over the judge's back. There's 2 85-inch TVs in all of them. There's the capability to bring in both WebEx and I think really any of the current technologies out there. The state uses. Am I drawing a blank? What? Zoom. Thank you. I had a brief moment. I couldn't remember. The state uses Zoom a lot. We've been using WebEx. So it's just a lot better experience for them to bring people in. And there's a split screen so the people in the room can see potentially a witness that's remote, or an inmate that's at a remote jail, remote prison facility. They can support having remote defense attorneys as well. So it worked out really well. We also redid at the beginning of that project, with a little bit separate funding pool, we redid the video that we have in our jail. So now we have 3 video systems in our jail. So there's a lot less need to transport people around. So that project will be listed as closed when we do our next IT prioritization committee meeting, which is in a couple weeks. A couple of other highlights that are important. There's, if you're not familiar with it, and I don't know who all participates in public safety committee meetings, but the Langlade Sheriff's Office is really struggling with staffing. And so we've offered and have been helping staff their dispatch center. So the temporary solution for that is they were driving, our dispatchers that were supporting them were driving over to Anago. We are in the process of doing a tighter integration in our network. We ran fiber to their sheriff's office last year for a different reason, and we're going to be using that. We're in the process of working with Raycom, a couple of different vendors. I'm hoping maybe about the end of January, perhaps, we'll be able to do full call handling and CAD dispatch handling for Langlade County from our dispatch center here. So there's quite a bit of work to do on that. Did you have a question on that? Oh.
I did. I thought, was there any ability for any other counties, if our dispatch would go down?
Yeah, we already overflow to Lincoln County. They can take
Okay.
our calls if we don't answer them. And Langlade's been able to take our call. Langlade is also kind of set up for that. There's a whole bunch of different. There's a bunch of things we try to address. We try to address a quick influx. For example, when we had a mass casualties shooting a couple of years ago down in Grand Avenue, our dispatch got overflowed with calls, right? So we're already set up to, if we don't answer a call, it gets transferred to either Lincoln right now. The plan is to switch that, so it'll switch over. Well, the original plan was to switch over to Langlade, but with their short staffing, there's no particular focus on that. The other thing that we're working on that we built over the last couple of years was a backup dispatch center, which is in the basement of the juvenile facility, which is next to Sunnyvale Park. That equipment's all out there. It all works. The example where that would be used is if we had a bomb threat or something going on in this building that we had to evacuate our dispatch center. What would happen is the calls would overflow to Lincoln or Langlade temporarily. Our staff would drive out to our backup facility and they'd get back online, and then we'd take back the call handling. So there's a whole bunch of different projects solving different problems depending on what's going on. The other thing that we do transferring on, remember, and I know I've talked about this in the past with you guys, is when we get a call for Langlade we get a call here that should have went to Langlade. And the typical scenario for that is someone's north of Hatley, and they have a car accident and they call in or a medical emergency. They call on their cell phone, and the cell tower incorrectly identifies that they're inside of Marathon County, sends the call to us. We ask them where they are. We realize that they're actually over the county line into Langlade, and then we have to transfer that call into Anago. So that's that's a completely different problem that we have to address. Go ahead. Yes.
Go ahead, Supervisor
Supervisor
Dickinson.
Dickinson.
So we're using Marathon County staff for another county, and we're using IT resources for another county. Is that correct? And if so, how's that funding working? How is what agreement is there? Is there a? Because I mean, I know it's temporary, but maybe it's not.
Do you want to take the IT
defer.
side?
Yeah, the IT side is the work that we do is related to our work. If if Langlade asked me to help them with something, I would bill them at our current rack rate, which I think is $92 an hour.
And on the sheriff's office side, that's an agreement that Sheriff Billup has with, I would characterize it as akin to a mutual aid agreement that he has with another county, but I haven't gotten a final update as to what that assistance is that he's agreed to provide, but it's in accordance with the idea that Langlade is serving as our overflow. Temporarily, we're assisting. If it's going to be something longer, I asked Chad to let me know, Sheriff Billup to let me know, but I haven't gotten an update yet. I can look into that and let you know. Do you have any?
It actually is a fair amount of technical work, so we will definitely be putting some resources into it.
And I can confirm that there is a payment under that agreement between the sheriffs. So Langley County is paying Marathon County for any time that our staff is being utilized in Langley County.
They have they only have 2.5 IT people, and 2 of them quit about a month and a half ago. So I think Lance was involved. I think you got involved in this. Robin Stowe's, their corp counsel, reached out to me and said, "Can you guys back us up?" And I said, "Well, I don't have any extra capacity to do that either because I'm taxed with all the other projects we got." But I gave them a bunch of advice, and they were fortunate enough to find an IT person that was actually living in Anago, that had moved here recently and couldn't find a job in Anago, so they had taken a job in Marinette, and so they were commuting. So they got kind of lucky. They found someone quickly. Last couple things we got all kinds of stuff going on, but I'll just highlight the copier contract. The new copiers we renewed that with Marco, and the new copiers are starting to arrive, I think, next week. We're working with the Regional Forensic Center, and then we just implemented training yesterday for Next Request, which may involve some of you folks. That's a new piece of software that's web-based for tracking public records requests. It's called Next Request. And you may end up getting those because if a citizen submits a Next Request on the county for public records from one of you, it's going to come in through this new piece of software. Any questions?
Any questions for Jerry? Okay, thank you. Just to follow up on the mutual aid agreements, I know Rothschild, Schofield, and Weston had a mutual aid agreement, and all of the officers are deputized, so that if we had to go from Rothschild's into Weston to take a call for them or make an arrest, we could do that, and we're covered under that mutual aid agreement. There's a reason for it, for liability. I don't know what the sheriff's department has, but like I said, that's quite normal for police departments because they do get overwhelmed sometimes. Go ahead.
Yep. And I can confirm, Mr. Chair, that's the exact arrangement in this case. It's under that mutual aid statute, so that our liability is covered statutorily for anything our employees are doing over there.
Similar thing is in place with fire, by the way. You're probably familiar with the term MABUS. That covers, that's the structure on how they do each other's backup.
I'll just if I could make one last comment, though. I mean, that's related to the sheriff's department. We're talking about they have no IT staff, and now our IT staff are helping them. I'm just
they asked us for help, and I said I didn't have any capacity
ensuring.
to do that, Chris.
I'm just Here's what I'm just ensuring. We approved a budget in 2023 and 2022 for 2023 to do for money to go to CCITC. And now what I don't remember anything, or maybe it was, maybe it's just one of those things that's in a FAR list in small print to say we're going to use staff and resources to help other counties when they have a staffing issue. That's all I'm saying. So if we're using our resources to help another county, that's part of the budget considerations and the agreements and such that need to be in place for us to be aware of. That's something that we would want to fund. I'm not saying anyone's doing anything wrong. I'm saying, making decisions, if they're temporary, I can understand, but if, I don't know, they might not have IT people for the entire year. Are we just going to continue to do that temporarily, billing it out or whatever? And how do we keep track of that? That's my concern and questions.
Like I said, they asked us to help, and I said I didn't have any capacity to do that. If I had to do something over there and I felt it was valuable to us, I would work with the sheriff, which is Mark Weston over there, and he and I have already had a conversation about that. I said if I needed to help you, we would be charging you at our. We have a published rate for that.
This is kind of tangentially related to that. So the CCIT commission that oversees CCIT, this is probably not a surprise to anyone, but a lot of other local governments have similar struggles. We actually had a request for the same sort of assistance, which we took up and denied last year as well.
That's right.
Or I think it might have been earlier this year. But we aren't.
It was earlier this year.
We are not currently providing CCIT support to Langlade County. It was just a request that came in.
Right.
All
I
right.
think actually I've had 3 of those, Lance, in the last 2 years.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry. Any other questions for Jerry? Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. If there's no further discussion on that, we'll move to 7E, update on PSC broadband grant application and hiring broadband support position. Supervisor Robinson?
We partnered with Frontier and Charter on grant applications serving parts of the western side of the county in the old LTD broadband area, which is, the FCC went through a reverse auction and he gave preliminary approval for LTD to serve part of that area, and later reneged on that because they were concerned about their ability to do it. As a result, those areas were not eligible for a number of grant rounds, and we were targeting those and encouraged the internet service providers to look at it. There's a little bit of overlap between the proposals. Frontier has submitted 2 proposals in the southwest corner, the Day McMillan, Spencer, town of Spencer area, and then Reed Brock, Wayne, Emmett area in the west central portion of the county. Frontier submitted 3 different projects, one in the village of Maine, one in McMillan and Spencer in that southwest corner. That's where the overlap occurs. And a third one in the town of Emmett. There were $42 million available. There were almost $222 million worth of requests for a match from the applicants. The charters grants are coming in with asking for 48%. The Frontiers grants are significantly higher, more in the 75% range, which means that they probably I'll be shocked if they're funded. I'll be happy if we get 1 out of the 5 projects. That would be good. We're starting to work on preparing for the broadband equity and access deployment program, and work with the internet service providers and target them. But with that, Jerry, do you want to do the introduction or should I introduce?
I would be glad to. Last several months ago, you and the county approved the ability to use $57,000 from ARPA funds and $18,000 from the Synergy BEAD grant for us to hire a part-time broadband coordinator. And I'm pleased to introduce Aaron Andrews to my right, who started on Monday and will be serving in that role until that position closes at the end of next year. We met with her a couple of days ago, John and I, and put together a work plan.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Yeah. Do you have any questions for me? Okay.
No questions. Easy interview. Go ahead, Supervisor Robinson.
Did you want to talk about the work plan, or?
Go ahead.
Well, I think what we're hoping to have her do, and there's a lot of work to do, but we're trying to track our existing contracts. You know, we are having some discussions with Bug Tussle relative to their project on the $25 million. They've had some concerns that the project costs have gone up and the scope grew significantly, so we're waiting for a proposal from them to revisit that. And then they also have the Leather Camp or the Cronewater, Knowlton, Gunther area project. But one of the things that Erin will be doing is coordinating the response with them. But also, she's going to be spending a lot of time looking at the BEAD program and trying to determine what the timelines are, the milestones are, and then where we might want to look at targeting county resources to supplement other resources, and then working with the internet service providers to get them. We know that we've got that RDOF area on the western side of the county. We also have spots here and there on the eastern side of the county that are underserved, and she'll be spending time with Preston at CPZ and working with him on mapping, and she's got a lot of work to do in a short time, and we look forward to her contributions.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Again, welcome to, I'm sure you have a lot of work to do, so. Anything else? Jerry?
No, the Broadband Task Force meets on Monday, December 18th. That's the next Broadband Task Force meeting. It will have, we've again invited the vendors that are doing projects to give us updates. I'm hoping that most of them show up or send us contact information. And then I would hope what's going on right now with respect to the BEAD grant is that the PSC submitted, they broke it up into two pieces called Volume 1 and Volume 2. They submitted Volume 1, or they requested public comment on their Volume 1 piece. They closed public comment on Volume 1, and they sent it to the feds a couple of days ago. And then they've opened up Volume 2, which has basically more detail in essence. And that's open for public comment, and I think that closes pretty soon. Do you remember? So it closes, which is today. Closes at the end of the day today. So that's to receive public comment on any changes that they would do on Volume 2. I think my best guess, talking to Alyssa Kenny at the PSC, who's in charge of their broadband task force or broadband team, I think we're going to see a schedule. I'm hoping by about the end of January. Be by ballpark is what I've been able to learn. A schedule meaning a schedule when people can apply for what the grants application process is going to look like, when they can apply, and when they'll make decisions on them and award them. They have from the state from the day that the feds accept their Volume 2, basically their final design of how they're going to distribute the $1 billion in Wisconsin. They have exactly 365 days to get everything distributed. So it sounds like a lot, but it's not going to be a lot if you know how the PSC works and how much time it takes for them to go through each of the different stages.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right, we'll move on to 8, next meeting date, time, announcements, and future agenda items. 8A is committee members are asked to bring ideas for future discussion. We have one, review the highway reserve balance, and we got the motion from Supervisor Robinson on the ability to speak to Senator Tomczyk and express to the state, Yeah, it would be.
February?
February, yeah. Yeah, that would be February, so. Is there any other suggestions? Supervisor Straub?
I don't have any suggestion, but I would just suggest that we all take a moment today to reflect on the fact that it's Pearl Harbor Day and that we take just reflect on that in our own way. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Chair McEwen, should I follow up with Lance and you to see if we want to do any tours of either the new video gear in the courtrooms here, or the conference suite? I don't know how you want to approach that and when.
Our plan was to try to do it for the whole board on the 14th.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, thank you. Anything else? Okay. Next meeting, 8B, next meeting is Thursday, January 4th, 2024 at 9 o'clock. And move on to number 9. Motion to adjourn by Supervisor Straub, second by Supervisor Robinson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much, and I just want to thank Vice Chair Dickerson for stepping in and chairing the 4 meetings I missed. Like I said, it was unfortunate, but I did view some of them. He did an excellent job, and again, I just want to thank you for your leadership in that. Thank you.
Next, let him take over.